Hello, and again, welcome back to the Hollywood Experience. I'm Adrian Paul, and Ethan Detmeyer is still there in that undisclosed location that he likes to be in.
Where
Hello,
the
Ethan.
magic happens. Yes,
You're
here.
making the magic happen somewhere in the background there.
I don't know if I'm generating the magic, but the magic seems to happen around us sometimes. And today's episode will be no exception, people.
Well, we've got a great episode today because we're going to talk Star Wars today.
Nobody likes that.
No, I hate that. Let's turn it off.
No one's into Star Wars.
Turn this podcast off. What was the first Star Wars movie you saw?
I saw Star Wars. I was like 4 years old. I saw the original Star Wars.
You saw the original one.
Blown away by it.
I still think I can remember the crawl, that the text crawl that went across it. And I think it was one of the first times they'd ever done something quite like that to explain the entire universe, because it's so big and massive of an idea. It was the only way they could actually probably get it to make sense in a text crawl like that across the universe.
Yeah, it's amazing. And Lucas has since confessed that the text crawl idea came from a combination of Flash Gordon and Brian De Palma suggesting some sort of illustration of what's happening. But the great thing about Star Wars is how it comes at you. You know, we since know that it was inspired by Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress, and the R2 and C-3PO characters are essentially also in that film. But can you imagine if they started that movie with just the two droids walking through the sand? Instead, they had enough sense to start it the way they started it, with that ship going overhead. And I just remember, I mean, I saw it for decades after that going, this is got to be one of the strongest beginnings to a movie in cinema history, I think.
Yeah. I want to get into our guest today, Sam Witwer, who has actually done a lot of voice as well as acting. A lot of Star Wars. Those of you that know, he's done a lot of different Star Wars Battlefront. He's done the Lego Star Wars Force Awakens. He's done the video games. He's done some of the series. So let's talk to Sam, because again, another great voice actor as well as an actor that I had the pleasure of talking to. Hello, good morning, Sam. How are you?
Good morning. How are you doing, Adrian?
I'm good. It looks like you have a studio all set up there.
Yeah, so you recognize, you probably know what those little these things are. You've seen these. These are amazing. These are called isothermal tube traps. I'm sorry, I'm a studio geek, so you shouldn't. You know what? I'm going to bypass this entire.
No. It's about to see him in the background. This is what I was looking at. I was like, isothermal. Say that again. Isothermal what?
Isothermal tube traps. They're like the most amazing thing for studios because they're configured. They shape the sound, they direct the sound, they do all kinds of stuff. And I've got a whole load of these. So I think that's why you're like, oh, it's a studio. I'm like, it is a studio, but they're all. I'm impressed because most of the studio stuff is behind the camera. But right. you keyed in on that really quick, so I'm good job. I'm proud of you.
No, I can usually tell studios, and you probably have a massive setup. Actually, is that an Atari you got in the background there?
Oh yes, it is.
Every studio needs one of those.
Yeah. There's more actually. There's all kinds of stuff going on over there. So yeah. That's actually Tron.
Was it Tron? My friend made that game actually.
Who's that?
Jason, oh gosh, he was the guy that put it on the map. He was the one that went to Microsoft and then went to who had it? Was it? Dude. He told me an interesting story about that. He said that the way he got the game off the ground, because that game's one of the older games. It's a way back, and he said to me, the way I did it was I went over to, I think it was Microsoft, or we went to Warner Brothers, whoever owned the property rights. I can't remember who it was. And he said to them, oh, I want to make Tron a video game. They said, well, you're going to need rights from Microsoft and that. And, he said, well, if I have those rights, are you interested? Yeah, we're interested. So he goes over to Microsoft. He says, I've got Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers are in. They're interested to do this. And so they went, oh, they are? And he goes, yeah. And we got it. So he then went back to Warner Brothers, saying, now Microsoft is in. We in? Yeah. And so he got it. It's a little bit of a white lie.
Classic.
But it was actually, so that's interesting. I don't think I've seen one of the consoles for that.
Yeah. It's a legend of a game. It's an incredible game. Still good to this day. I mean, that game is what, 40 years old, and it's
incredible. You're dating me and you on this one now.
Oh shit! Oh no! Okay, look, it's less than 40. It's more than 35, but it's less than 40.
So look, you're from Illinois, right, originally. Yeah. What brought you out to Los Angeles? Why the move?
Well, okay, so when I was a kid, I had a notion that I wanted to be an actor, and that's, you don't even know what that means. You're like, oh, I want to be an actor, in the same way that a lot of kids like, I want to be famous. Like, for what? I don't know. It's weird. And then I got a little older. I got a little bit more realistic, and I was like, you know what? That's not. You can't be an actor. Be a rock star. So then I started playing with a band, and I was like, I'm going to be a rock star. And then I weirdly auditioned, because I did like plays in school and stuff for fun. It was only for fun. And then I got pushed by my parents to audition for Juilliard, and then weirdly got in. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll train to be an actor. I guess I'll go back to that. So it was not planned. It wasn't planned. It was just like this weird, bizarre, oh, Juilliard has accepted you to the drama division. I'm like, why would they do that?
Why would it? Because your parents put you in. That's why.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. The drama division takes 20 people a year, and I think the reason I got in is I was the only one there not taking it seriously. So everyone else is like,
yeah,
dressed up, and they're like becoming the wall to warm up, and they're doing all these breathing exercises, and I'm like this long-haired kid going like, whoa, what's going on? I don't care. And I think that's why they took me.
It's part of the thing is I think, when people go to audition for things, it's the people that kind of stand out that are different than anybody else that people take. It's the same thing as, I produced and I've directed, and somebody walks in with a totally different take, not necessarily what the character description is, but they're interesting, so you go, that person's cool.
So that makes sense that you would go for that, because with all of your acting experience, I would imagine that you appreciate it when someone does something different. Like, oh, look at that. That's not what we planned for, but why don't we go with that?
Well, usually the fact of the matter is that people that capture you do that on a part. They do it anyway on screen, so it's like that person's capturing me. These person fit the role, but this person's interesting, and therefore that's what you want to watch. You want to watch somebody that has that kind of interesting thing about them. So
it's interesting. It seems to me, and let me know if this is how you feel about it, but it seems to me that the more experienced the producer or the director or the more willing they are to accept something that is out of the box, that is not what they expect, because I'm sure you've been in those situations where you're on set and you're doing the scene, and you're like, well, this is how the scene needs to go, and the director's like, yeah, this is it, and the writer goes, and they go, the writer walks in and they go, it's not really how I wrote it. I'm like, well, these are the words. Well, yeah, those are the words, but it's not. I mean, I guess this works too. I guess it works, and you're like, it works. It's okay. Don't worry. It's not going to be exactly like you see in your head.
I actually did that once on one program, because I knew it was going to be a B movie. And the B movie, I knew the effects were going to be not good. I knew the company that was doing it, and I knew how they worked their products. So I looked at the character, and I did all the research on the character, and realized he was very self-centered and egotistical. So I played that totally in everything he did, which made it a comedy. And the writer went, oh my God, it's not a comedy. But then everybody else started doing it, and we had all these comedic moments in the piece that totally worked for it. But it was only straight out of the character and being truthful for the character. So sometimes it works really well.
Yeah, that's true.
What was the first thing? So I think one of the first things you did was ER, wasn't it?
It was. If you were talking about the very first thing, it would have been a Chicago Bulls commercial. Where I faked my way into playing a ninja. I faked a martial arts audition.
So come on. How did you fake a martial arts audition?
They lined me up against a whole bunch of martial artists, and I guess I watched Bruce Lee closer than they did, I guess. Because they were doing real things. They were like, actually had they actually had ability. But I think I just had a little bit more, I was doing all this stuff, and the actual martial artists were like, whoa. And I'm like, dude, I'm faking it. I don't know what I'm doing. So I got hired to play a ninja for a commercial. I think I got paid $500 6 months later. Yeah, 6 months later, I got $500 for that. So great.
Isn't that funny? Sometimes some of the smallest jobs you do, or the biggest jobs you think you do, are the ones that pay the least. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the rationale. It's the same thing as going in on auditioning now. Some of the bigger jobs you do have less sides.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm going in to do one on Friday. It's 10 pages, and it's like, and I'm like, but it doesn't make sense. This is a smaller role. I mean, anyway, it doesn't, you know.
Wasn't it funny though when you get those auditions that are, you know, like an 18-page audition? You're like, so you want me to shoot like every scene?
Exactly. That is it.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. It's true. It's true. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm shooting the entire thing here. I mean, you want to see the entire performance. And by the way, you got to do it tomorrow.
I know. I hate that. Do you like, let me ask you this. How do you feel now that everything is on tape? How do you feel about that?
I don't mind it. I don't mind it totally. I actually prefer it because I can do another take. Because in the room, sometimes I'm not as confident, or I do things and then I try to adjust something. I go, oh, that moment would be better here, and I'm trying to do more here, but I can't do that in a room. You know, you can put it on tape, you can do it. Plus, you know, I've actually just started, and I just got my last job like this, actually doing it on a teleprompter. So
dude,
it was so cool because the teleprompter was a screen, and I didn't have to worry about the lines so much. The lines will come later. I mean, lines are easy, you know.
Sure.
But if you have to do it 2 days later, you've got 10 pages to do, and you're looking down on your lines, there are some people that can do that. It's just not me. I have to create a character. So I started using teleprompter, and I've just done it for my last 2 auditions, and they went really well.
Now, are you using an app or are you using an actual teleprompter? Like how?
No, I have an app. I have a teleprompter that goes on my camera for my other stuff. I have vlogs and stuff we do for the Sword Experience, and I will use that. But I will use the iPad, the same app, which scrolls it, and we just set it up off camera.
All right, I got to check that out.
Yeah, Prompt Smart. Prompt Smart. It's called Prompt Smart. Prompt Smart.
Right.
Look at
taking that down
because it's a lifesaver. If you make sure that you don't look at the screen, you use it as a reference. You know, because when you're working on it, you kind of look off camera and you can see the lines, and now you can look back again and get into the character. So the lines are there. I mean, later on, like you said, you got 10 pages to do, and you've got 2 days to rehearse them or 3 days to rehearse them. You totally can't do a character. You're just reading lines.
Well, isn't that the funny thing, right? Like now, and someone might say, some producer might say to you or me, be like, well, there are days where you have to do 10 pages and you're already hired. And you're like, yeah, if we've been working and we have momentum and the character's been established and we all know each other, then yes, I can get through 10 pages with a day or 2 of prep, but not when it's a new thing. Not at all. Not and expect it to be very good. You know, like
we had I did a show back in 2001 where the last show was 3 days of 34 pages plus 2 action sequences.
Oh my God.
Right.
Oh my God.
And the pages were massive monologues, and I got through it. But yeah, once you're there and you've done the character and you know the logistics and all that stuff, it's easy. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. There was an episode I shot in a show that I did, and we were like I think we were in our 2nd season. And the show mostly took place around this staircase. Now, usually this show goes places and you're outside or you're inside or blah, blah, blah. But for this particular episode, we were confined to this staircase with a few scenes that took place outside, because all of the action took place in this one little room. And so they're like, okay, we're going to have to shoot this very creatively to make this interesting and stuff like that. But the way that we did it was because the set was not designed to get all of the angles of the stairs that they needed to get. So they needed to pull out walls that weren't designed to pull out and this and that. So the only way they could do this was if we performed the whole thing as a stage play in one angle, and then switch the cameras and then perform the whole episode as a stage play again. We had maybe 3 or 4 days to learn the whole episode virtually. It was extraordinary. And we of course said, guys, you're going to get approximately the lines. You're not going to get anywhere near word for word. And they were happy with that. But it was one of the more interesting challenges, whereas literally you're going through the whole thing. It was insane.
I think there's, and especially with COVID now, the shooting days have changed. I mean, with the regulations now, you can only shoot. I just came off of SWAT, and they had used to have 12, 14 hours some days. Now they're down to 10, and they still have, so now they do 10 days with no lunch break. there is no lunch break now. You're doing a running lunch the entire time. So, you break when you can. And so you've got 10 hours now to shoot the same amount of stuff that you had before. And it's pace. The pace is there, so they had a lot to do in this episode too. We were at Ontario Airport, where there was that's where we shot. And there were different angles and cars and police cars and SWAT vehicles and fights and, and they got it done.
It's always, it's always safe when you're like, hey, we got a bunch of stunts to shoot. We only have like an hour. Let's go. We're like, oh, that's always goes well. Always.
So tell me, I see one of your credits is Star Trek Enterprise in 2003.
Yes.
And you were Sloth 3.
Sloth number 3. Yeah, very important.
What did that entail exactly?
Well, you know what it was I'm such a huge Star Trek fan, and I wanted the experience of being under all that makeup. I wanted to know what that was like. So, and this was definitely at a time where I was now guest starring on various shows, going from show to show in LA, and generally getting some pretty fun roles. But the Sloth thing, I was like, I want to be on Star Trek. And I went in and I blew the audition. It was terrible. It was like the most overcooked, weird, over the top thing. And I remember walking out in shame, knowing that I had done some of the worst high school acting of my life. But then I had some friends in the art department, went into the art department, and they showed me a picture of what the character would look like. And I was like, oh, well, I know how to do that. That's okay. If it looks like that, then oh no, I know how to do that. So I literally walked back in. I'm like, would you mind seeing me again? And they're like, okay. And then I did it. And then they gave me the call back, and then they gave me the role, which was very nice of them.